The road to Blackthorn Hollow was a winding scar through the dense forest, barely visible under the pale moonlight. Emily Harper's old sedan rattled as it navigated the uneven path, the headlights flickering like nervous eyes. She glanced at the GPS, which had been glitching for the past hour, stubbornly insisting she was driving in circles. The map showed nothing but a blank expanse where the town should be. "It's fine," she muttered, gripping the steering wheel tighter. "Just a glitch." Emily was a journalist, chasing a story that could salvage her faltering career. Blackthorn Hollow had been whispered about in online forums, a town abandoned decades ago after a string of disappearances. The kind of place that fueled urban legends. She'd found a single grainy photo of a crumbling church steeple piercing the fog, captioned, "No one leaves the hollow." It was enough to hook her. The air grew colder as she drove deeper into the forest. The trees loomed taller, their branches clawing at the sky. Her radio sputtered, spitting static before settling on a faint, distorted voice, a preacher, maybe, droning about salvation. She switched it off, but the silence was worse, thick and oppressive. Finally, a rusted sign emerged from the mist. "Welcome to Blackthorn Hollow, Est, 1832. The population number had been scratched out, replaced with a smeared red symbol that looked vaguely like a spiral. Emily's stomach twisted, but she pressed on. The story was worth it. The town appeared suddenly, as if it had been waiting. Dilapidated houses lined a single street, their windows dark and jagged like broken teeth. The air smelled of damp earth and something metallic. Emily parked near the church from the photo, its steeple leaning precariously. She grabbed her notebook, camera, and flashlight, stepping out into the fog. The silence was unnatural. No birds, no wind, just her footsteps crunching on gravel. She approached the church, its doors hanging off their hinges. Inside, pews were overturned, hymnals scattered like dead leaves. The altar was covered in strange carvings, spirals, eyes, and words in a language she didn't recognize. Her flashlight beam caught something glinting, a small silver locket, half buried in the dust. She pocketed it, intending to examine it later. As she turned to leave, a whisper slithered through the air. "Stay." Emily froze. The voice was soft, almost childlike, but it seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Her heart pounded. "Hello," she called, her voice echoing. No response, just the whisper again, closer now. "Stay with us." She bolted from the church, her breath hitching. Outside, the fog had thickened, swallowing the street. Her car was still there, but the tires were slashed, the windows smeared with that same red spiral. Panic clawed at her chest. She tried her phone, no signal. The GPS screen was blank, except for one word: stay. Emily ran, her flashlight beam cutting through the fog. The town seemed to shift around her, houses looming closer, their windows watching. She stumbled into what looked like a general store, its shelves bare except for a few moldy cans and a cracked mirror. Her reflection stared back, but something was wrong. Her eyes in the mirror were too wide, too dark, and they didn't blink when she did. She backed away, tripping over a loose floorboard. Beneath it was a small, leather-bound journal. The pages were filled with frantic handwriting. They're in the fog. They see everything. Don't listen to the whispers. Don't look at the shadows. The last entry was dated 1973, the year the disappearances peaked. It ended mid-sentence. I saw her face in the... A creak came from the back of the store. Emily swung her flashlight, catching a glimpse of movement, something tall, thin, and impossibly pale, slipping behind the counter. Her mouth went dry. "Who's there?" she shouted, her voice trembling. The whisper came again, not from the store, but inside her head. "You're ours now." She ran again, bursting into the street. The fog parted briefly, revealing a figure at the edge of town, a woman in a tattered dress, her face obscured by matted hair. She stood motionless, her head tilted at an unnatural angle. Emily's instincts screamed to run the other way, but the woman raised a hand, pointing to a narrow path leading into the forest. Against her better judgment, Emily followed. The path was overgrown, roots twisting like veins under the earth. The whispers grew louder, overlapping into a chorus of voices, some pleading, some angry, all unintelligible. Her flashlight flickered, then died. In the darkness, she felt something brush her arm, cold and slick like wet leaves. She screamed, stumbling forward until she reached a clearing. In the center stood a massive oak tree, its branches gnarled and blackened. At its base was a pile of objects, shoes, watches, glasses, all stained with that red spiral. Emily's hand went to her pocket, where the locket burned against her skin. She pulled it out, hands shaking, and opened it. Inside was a photo of a young girl, her eyes scratched out. The whispers surged. "You found her." Emily dropped the locket, backing away. The tree seemed to pulse, its bark rippling like flesh. The fog closed in, and the woman from the street appeared again, closer now. Her hair parted, revealing a face that wasn't a face, just a hollow void with two glowing pinpoints for eyes. Emily screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the fog. She ran blindly, branches tearing at her clothes. The journal's words echoed in her mind. "Don't look at the shadows." But the shadows were everywhere, stretching and twisting into shapes that weren't human. They moved with purpose, hurting her back toward the town. She tripped, falling into a ditch. Her hands landed on something soft and cold a body. It was a man, his eyes wide open, his face frozen in terror. His chest was carved with the red spiral. Emily scrambled away, her mind unraveling. The whispers were deafening now, chanting her name. "Emily, Emily, join us." She staggered back to the church, the only place she recognized. Inside, the carvings on the altar glowed faintly, pulsing in time with her heartbeat. She collapsed, clutching the journal. The final page had a new entry, written in her own handwriting. "I'm sorry, I looked." The woman appeared again, her void face inches from Emily's. "You were always ours," she whispered, her voice a chorus of the lost. The shadows closed in, their forms merging into a single writhing mass. Emily's scream was cut short as the fog swallowed her whole. Epilogue. Weeks later, a new post appeared on the forum where Emily had found the photo. It was a blurry image of Blackthorn Hollow's church, the steeple now collapsed. The caption read, "Another one gone, don't go to the hollow." Attached was a photo of Emily's notebook, open to a page with a single scrawled word, "Stay." In Blackthorn Hollow, the fog never lifts. The whispers never stop, and the shadows wait, patient and hungry, for the next soul to answer their call. The news of Emily Harper's disappearance barely made a ripple outside the small online community obsessed with Blackthorn Hollow. Her editor, Marcus Reed, was one of the few who cared enough to dig deeper. Emily had emailed him a cryptic message before she vanished. "Found something big in the hollow. Don't trust the fog." Attached was a grainy photo of a spiral-carved altar. Marcus, a skeptic who'd seen countless journalists chase dead-end leads, felt a chill he couldn't explain. He drove to Blackthorn Hollow 2 weeks later, armed with a shotgun, a satchel of supplies, and a desperate need to prove Emily was still alive. The forest road was worse than Emily's notes described potholes like open wounds, trees pressing in like silent sentinels. His truck's radio hissed with static, occasionally catching fragments of a sermon about damnation. He turned it off, but the words lingered. The town emerged from the fog like a trap snapping shut. Marcus parked near the church, its collapsed steeple now a pile of splintered wood. Emily's sedan was gone, but the ground where it had been was stained with red spirals, as if painted by a trembling hand. He checked his phone, no signal, just like Emily had warned. The air was heavy, carrying that same metallic tang she'd described. Marcus entered the church, shotgun raised. The altar was still there, its carvings more pronounced, as if they'd grown deeper since Emily's photo. He found her camera, lens cracked, half buried in the dust. The memory card was intact. He pocketed it, then noticed something else, a faint trail of footprints leading to the back of the church. They were small Emily size and smeared with that red, oily substance. The footprints led to a trapdoor beneath the altar, barely visible under a layer of grime. Marcus pried it open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. The whispers started then, soft and insistent. "Come find her." He hesitated, his rational mind screaming to leave, but Emily's face determined, stubborn flashed in his memory. He descended, flashlight in one hand, shotgun in the other. The staircase spiraled deeper than seemed possible, the air growing colder and thicker with each step. The walls were slick with something that glistened like blood but smelled like decay. The whispers grew louder, a cack straddling between a scream, ascend and descend. Marcus found himself in a labyrinth of damp stone corridors. The walls were edged with the same spirals he'd seen above, some fresh, others faded with age. His flashlight caught glints of objects embedded in the stone rings, keys, a child's shoe all marked with that red spiral. His stomach churned, but he pressed on, Emily's name echoing in his mind. The corridor opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. At the center was a pool of dark, viscous liquid, its surface rippling as if breathing. Above it hung a massive, twisted sculpture of roots and bone, pulsing faintly with a reddish glow. The whispers were deafening now, a chorus of voices, some familiar like Emily's, pleading, "Help us, free us." Marcus stumbled back, his flashlight catching glimpses of figures in the shadows tall, pale, their faces voids with glowing eyes. They didn't approach, just watched, their presence pressing against his mind. He found Emily's notebook on a stone ledge, open to a new page. The handwriting was hers, but frantic. "It's alive. The hollow feeds it. Don't come for me." Next to it was the silver locket, its photo now showing Emily's face, her eyes scratched out. He raised his shotgun, but the shadows moved faster, converging on the pool. The liquid rose, forming a shape of a woman, her face a hollow void, her voice a scream in his skull. "You can't leave." "You're ours," Marcus fired, the blast echoing uselessly. The shadows surged, and he ran, the whispers chasing him up the stairs. Back in the church, Marcus barricaded the trapdoor with pews, but the whispers followed, now joined by Emily's voice. "Marcus, stay." The fog outside was thicker, the town shifting houses closer, streets narrower. His truck was gone, replaced by a red spiral smeared across the ground. He sprinted toward the forest, the shadows trailing him, their forms flickering in the fog. The path to the great oak was different now, the tree larger, its branches writhing like tentacles. The pile of belongings at its base had grown. Emily's jacket was there, stained red. Marcus didn't stop. He ran until his lungs burned, the whispers fading but never stopping. His flashlight died, but the forest seemed to guide him, roots parting to reveal the highway. He flagged down a trucker, collapsing in the passenger seat. The driver didn't speak, just drove, his eyes avoiding Marcus. The radio crackled, spitting out that same sermon. Marcus didn't look back. Marcus Reed hadn't slept properly in months. The whispers followed him everywhere, soft, insidious, weaving through his dreams and waking thoughts. "Come back, you belong to us." He tried to move on, to forget Blackthorn Hollow, but Emily's scratched-out eyes in that locket haunted him. Her notebook, though burned, seemed to linger in his memory, its words etched into his mind. He knew he had to go back, not just for Emily, but to end whatever was in that town before it came for him. He prepared meticulously this time. A new truck, loaded with fuel cans, a high-powered flashlight, a flare gun, and a machete. He'd studied the photos from Emily's camera, memorizing the spirals, the altar, the void-faced woman. The forum was gone, wiped from the internet, but he'd saved a single map from a cached thread, marked with a path to the Great Oak. He left a letter for his sister, vague but clear. "If I don't come back, don't look for me." The drive to Blackthorn Hollow felt shorter, as if the forest was eager to reclaim him. The rusted sign was gone, replaced by a gnarled tree stump carved with the red spiral. The town appeared faster too, its houses leaning closer, their windows glinting like eyes. The church was a ruin now, its walls collapsed inward, but the altar stood untouched, the carvings glowing faintly under the fog's dim light. Marcus didn't linger. He headed straight for the forest path, the map clutched in one hand, machete in the other. The whispers started immediately, louder than before, a chorus of voices, Emily's, the preachers and others all chanting, "Welcome home." The fog pressed against him, cold and heavy, like hands guiding him toward the oak. The great oak was different, bigger, its branches pulsing with veins of red light. The pile of belongings at its base had grown. Emily's camera, her jacket, and now Marcus's own wallet, which he'd had in his pocket that morning. His heart pounded, but he pushed forward, hacking at the roots that seemed to writhe under his feet. The whispers grew frantic, overlapping. "Stop, you'll wake it." He found a hollow in the tree's trunk, a gaping wound oozing that same viscous liquid from the underground chamber. Inside, he saw movement shapes, human-like but wrong, twisting in the dark. He lit a flare, its red glow illuminating the hollow. Faces stared back, hundreds, pressed into the wood, their mouths open in silent screams. Emily's was among them, her eyes hollow voids, her lips moving. "Marcus, run." He didn't run. He poured gasoline into the hollow, the liquid hissing as it met the tree's flesh. The whispers turned to shrieks, the shadows surging from the fog. They were faster now, their void faces splitting to reveal rows of needle-like teeth. Marcus fired the flare gun into the hollow. Flames erupted, the tree convulsing as if in pain. The shadows screamed, their forms dissolving into the fire. The ground shook, roots bursting from the earth, wrapping around his legs. He swung the machete, cutting himself free, but the fog thickened, the flames dimming. The void-faced woman appeared, her form towering now, her voice a deafening roar. "You cannot destroy the hollow." Her hands, skeletal and clawed, reached for him, but Marcus threw the last of his gasoline, the flames flaring brighter. The fire spread, consuming the oak. The whispers became wails, then faded. The woman's form collapsed, her void face crumbling into ash. Marcus stumbled back, coughing, his skin blistered from the heat. The fog began to lift, revealing a town that was no longer a town, just ruins, as if Blackthorn Hollow had never existed. He found Emily's locket in the ashes, unburned, its photo now blank. The whispers were gone, but so was his strength. He collapsed, the forest silent for the first time. As his vision faded, he saw a figure, not the woman, but Emily, her face whole, smiling sadly. "You did it," she whispered, her voice clear, not part of the chorus. "You're free." Marcus was found by loggers a week later, half dead, clutching the locket. He told them nothing, only that the forest was cursed. The loggers reported no town, no ruins, just an empty clearing with a charred stump. Marcus never spoke of Blackthorn Hollow again, but he kept the locket, its blank photo a reminder. Online, a new forum appeared, buried in the dark web. A single post, no author. The hollow is quiet, but it's not gone. It waits. Attached was a photo of a red spiral, drawn in ash. In the forest, the fog lingers, faint but persistent. The ground pulses softly, and deep beneath, something stirs, patient, hungry, eternal.